When we think of HEMA, we often see scenes like these before our inner eye. While geared up sparring is really important for competitors, it is only part of the bigger picture. Hi, I'm Ragnar. I'm a competitive fencer focusing on becoming the best fighter I can be, and I'm taking you with me on my journey. This is Frazon Fencing. HEMA is first and foremost a martial art, and while I personally put a lot of emphasis on advancing my athletic ability and reaction times, there is something profoundly beautiful in slower paced Blossfechten. But why is that? Slowing down deliberately and removing most of the components that protect us, be that our gloves, a mask or everything at once, forces us to be really mindful of the little things, just as the old masters intended. I want to introduce you to Blossfechten. Where am I placing my foot? How does my opponent's blade feel in the bind? What room do I have to apply a specific technique, and can I pull it off while staying safe? Of course, these questions do come up in sparring too, but when you're in the moment and the blood is pumping, you hardly notice the small things. But they do matter a lot. What you are seeing here does not look like much. I'm not as experienced a fencer as my partner is, nor is he really pressuring me. But through these kinds of bouts, my personal understanding of technique and its application, as well as my overall structure, improves vastly, and I can become a much better historical fencer. More nuanced, and therefore better prepared to face a lot of different fencing styles and opponents with a whole lot more confidence. A warrior does not only need battle and hardship to grow, but also peace, quiet, meditation and artful expression. And that is precisely what Blossfechten is about, at least to me. And it's the closest we come to expressing the martial art that the big masters like Maya intended to teach us. Asia has an almost mythical culture around its many styles of martial arts, and that is for the most part respected all over the world. However, here in Europe we seem to have lost the connection to what those who came before us built for the next generations. And it's time to reclaim it. If we put the protective gear aside, it suddenly becomes much more personal and real. We can really see our counterpart. We can see his expressions, his way of thinking around problems we present him with, and he can see that in us too. We have to be mindful of what we show in order to not give away our next move. We also have to be even more careful with our blade work so as not to hurt one another, and that's very important. I'm very proud to be a competitive HEMA fencer, but there are glaring weaknesses in our sport. Most of the time, people almost completely disregard the possibility of being hit with an afterblow. If they just score the higher point onto their opponent, they're content. I'm guilty of that myself, but it's silly. We are working with weapons of war. Even if they're blunt, I think we should treat them as if they were not. That would vastly improve the quality of fencing we could see on the international stage and would make for a much more enjoyable viewing experience too. And it would make us better fencers, and that's always a good thing. If you treat the blade like a real threat to your life, your whole approach to fencing against others changes. You're much more cautious and you try to apply a lot more Fühlen in the bind. If there are no gloves involved, the amount of handshots goes way back. Not only because you don't want to hurt your training partner, but also because you're suddenly way more cautious where you are putting your own blade in relation to the opponent's. Another interesting thing is our reliance on going in hard. That's a mistake. I've already talked about the stupidity of disregarding counterblows, but there is another thing to be mindful of. If you are spending a lot of time within striking distance, the possibility of being struck goes way up. All of a sudden, we are starting to spend more time on the edge of our preferred distance and need to put in a lot more thought and work on how to get in close to our partner without just running into their point. I'll be the first one to put on gloves when facing a historical longsword in Blossfechten though. Those points, even when blunted, are way too dangerous for my precious little fingers. As you can see here, we are often discussing where exactly a hit occurred, as we are doing our best to restrain our hitting power and therefore sometimes not noticing the smaller hits. But it's important to discuss it afterwards so you can improve. It's a personal pet peeve of mine that I try for a one-handed thrust at least once per match. Also, having a wall behind you is very limiting for your ability, as you can think, and it forces you to make quick and decisive reactions. For this session, my friend Jacob really pressed me and I was forced into a very defensive position. It's a difficult scenario, but really good for improving defensive coordination. Again, wear gloves against non-folded tips. Even then, they can glide through the gaps and really hurt, as you can see here. I hope I could give you a different glimpse into the world of traditional HEMA. Even if you're a competitor first and foremost, try to broaden your spectrum and watch yourself improve in ways you have not even thought of before. This has been Ragnar from Fraser & Fencing, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Ciao!